Hello, everyone, and welcome to K All. My name is Angel, and today we are here with a Grammy-winning producer, mixer, engineer who has mixed over 50 released BTS and solo tracks. With 116 gold and platinum records, 80 Billboard Hot number ones, and 50 billion streams, your favorite song just might have his name written all over it. From Taylor Swift to Bangtan Sonyeondan, his track record speaks for itself. Give it up for the brilliant Ken Lewis. Woo!
Hey, Angel. Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too. Thank you so much for being here, Ken.
Thank you for the nice introduction. I appreciate that.
Of course, it's truly an honor to speak with you. You've been mixing for BTS since their very beginning. How did you first end up connecting and working with the septet?
They reached out to me. Hitman Bang, I believe, was my first contact. It might have been Pdogg, but I feel like it was Hitman. I think I was mixing stuff for them before Dark and Wild, when they were just to make records. And then Pdogg and Hitman and one other producer flew over to mix the entire Dark and Wild album with me. Most of it, not all of it. 8 songs I think I mixed on it. That kind of established my relationship with them. I got along great with Hitman and Pdogg, and they felt like friends, and we stayed friends for many years. I still talk to Pdogg occasionally. And then they just kept sending me, the next album I'd get a few mixes, and the next album I'd get a few mixes, and before you know it, I got 50 BTS mixes. So
Awesome. Absolutely incredible. So, since we're kind of talking about their very first studio album, Dark and Wild, which I'm sporting today, of course, gotta rep
hey,
it.
love it.
Thank you. I really want to dig into your memories working on this record because even 12 years later, it's still an absolute fan favorite. And you were on What Am I to You, Let Me Know, Cypher Pt.3 Killer, So Four More / Second Grade, Hip Hop File, my personal favorite, Look Here, Do You Think It Makes Sense? So looking back at this crazy track list, which one was a personal favorite to work on?
Probably the Cypher 3. Especially, these guys are such hip hop heads. And my relationship with BTS has always primarily been with RM, Suga, and J-Hope. So if I'm mixing a BTS song for the whole group, it's usually featuring one of those three. All of them are singing on it, but, they're the features on those particular songs that I tend to get tapped for, as well as the solo projects. I've mixed on 2 RM solo projects, 2 Agust D, Suga, and 2 J-Hope solo projects. But for the singers, I've done some remixes. Like I mixed a Jin remix off of Echo last year, and a bunch of Jung Kook remixes, like 7, and what was that other one?
Standing next to you.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I'm here whenever they need me. So every now and then I just get a call or an email like, "Hey Ken, are you available on to do?" And I'm like, yes, yes I am. Send it over. And.
It's incredible. And you mentioned in an interview with Studio Talks how initially they were specifically seeking an American style of mixing, but over the years, they have completely come into their own as artists through the sound that you've helped them shape on these records. So, from your expert point of view, how would you define the core BTS sound, and how have you watched it evolve over time?
It's funny because I think they tapped me because I was an American mixer with an American sound, but I had also mixed Rain and a bunch of other very notable K-pop artists. So I knew both worlds really well. And I knew hip hop really well. I was like Kanye's figure it out guy for 15 years. I think I had all of the right credibility that they were looking for and all of the right sensibilities. It's funny, the evolution of, they want an American sound early on, but then I really remember, I can't remember if it was the first or maybe later early albums where Hitman would tell me specifically, he's like, you can't de-ess the vocals so much. You've got to let the all of those. He's like, those have to be a lot sharper in Korean than they are in English. And he's like, you're reducing them like you would for an English vocalist. I need those to bite more. And that was the only time he ever asked for that. And it went straight back to the American sound. And I don't even, to me, I don't think about, oh, am I going to give this an American sound, or am I going to do, I just think about, I listen to the song and the song tells me what to do to the song. And I try not to put my stamp on it. I try and figure out what the artist is trying to say and convey and the emotions that they're trying to communicate. And I can bring the most out of that, whether I'm the producer or co-writer or mixer or, whatever I am.
Very interesting to hear about how he kind of pointed out the little like like the nuances with the language, and then
Yeah.
he didn't bring it up again later.
Well, it was, I think he wanted more of a traditional Korean treatment on the vocals. And then after I think he heard that and probably heard it on the radio, he was like, no, no, let's go back to what you were doing before. And
Like that was working.
yeah, so but it's really strange. There was one Korean artist around boy 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more, that had me DS their vocals so much that I genuinely thought it just ruined the entire performance. And I told them, I was like, look, I've been doing vocals a long time. This feels like you're ruining the vocal. And they loved it. And I was just like, the only thing that matters to me is that you love it. This is what it sounds like to me. So, everybody has a different opinion in record making land of what their descriptors mean. And you, as, a collaborator and a creative, just have to kind of listen to those descriptors and try and ask like probing questions about, what they're really trying to convey and accomplish. And just see if you can get like insights into that artist. So you're not just doing you're just like, okay, this is what they're about. Let me figure that out.
Absolutely. Yeah, thinking back to the albums you worked on even before Dark and Wild, like their EPs, so to speak, such
Right.
as Oh Are You Late Too, I really enjoyed the way that you mixed the vocals on songs like Coffee and If I Ruled the World. I feel like they're very different in the way that you set those up, and I'm kind of curious if you have any memories working on those tracks.
Boy, I have mixed uh, so many songs from so many artists since then. I don't really recall, but I do know all of those songs were mixed using Pro Tools as my DAW, but onto an analog SSL. So those are all straight analog mixes, and I feel like the sonics reflect that. Like there just weren't that many people at the time, unless you were booking a major, major studio that were giving you an analog mix, and I had a SSL at home. So same with Rain. I think I bought my SSL like a year before I mixed Rainism. So that was really dumb luck because boy, did that just set a path for me.
Definitely set the stage. Rainism is iconic in Korea and definitely shaped a lot when it comes to music. So that's really cool. But you did recently share how one of your favorite BTS memories was when RM actually came to your home
Um,
studio the day after he spoke at the United Nations. So I'm kind of curious, can you walk us through that memory and the significance it has to you?
Yeah, that's crazy. So, I knew they were in town and I knew that he was going to come out and work on that specific day, but I didn't know they were going to be at the UN. I just don't follow, I work 7 days a week. I just don't follow shit. And so I woke up the morning that they were at the UN and there were like headlines like BTS speaks at the UN today. So I watched it live and RM spoke for the entire group, which he's the leader, so that makes sense. But BTS addressing the entire United Nations General Assembly is mind blowing. And for them to talk about the messages that they did, I thought was super honorable. And then the next day, RM is at my house and studio, cutting vocals and mixing the mono EP, which is, oh God, I love that EP. So I still listen to I Love You Soul all the time.
I adore it. It's a beautiful song, and I feel like Mono as a whole, that EP kinda echoes a lot of the sentiments that he gave at the UN.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that.
Going back to that time when you worked on Mono, you also shared how 2 days later, you and Pdogg were sitting at the BTS concert in
Yeah, that was
Newark.
nuts.
So, I'm kinda curious, what was it like hearing songs that you mixed played live?
That was a moment for sure. That's the only time I've ever seen BTS live. I'm in ear preservation mode in my career, and I avoid concerts unless it's the Eras tour or BTS.
Yeah, I respect
Is
that.
pretty much it. And my ears are not ringing yet, and most of I don't know, probably any of my peers at my age that can say that, and I wanna make sure my ears last forever. But yeah, it's the United Nations, and RM addresses the General Assembly, then the next day, he's at my studio cutting vocals and mixing mono, and then 2 days later, we're at Newark Arena in, like, the best seats in the house, Pdogg and me and my wife, Lori, with perfect seats, and the most mind-blowing thing to me was seeing all of the young American girls, and I mean all of them. There wasn't a girl who was not doing this, singing both the English and Korean lyrics as the songs were playing, and I've just never seen that as an American. I rarely see that with Spanish songs, and to have witnessed that en masse like that, how much it was just the complete realization of how much Korean culture and K-pop culture has had influenced America, and how much BTS was an influence. And I've also got to say, that was the loudest screaming I have ever heard in my entire life by a country mile. It was more like it with my earplugs jammed in. It was more painful during the in-betweens of the songs with the screaming girls than it was during the songs with the full PA.
Wow.
I've never seen or heard anything like that. It was really, because like for me, the awards come and I'm like, okay, that's cool. I gotta make another record now. I can't, you never rest on your awards if you're a smart person in this business. So it doesn't like I don't even track this stuff. And then it happens and you're like right in the middle of it and you're like, oh my God, this is happening. Holy shit. That was really fucking cool.
It's
Especially for
really
Dog who, I kicked the whole thing off with. And yeah,
exactly.
that was great. I love that dude.
Yeah, he's amazing. It's absolutely incredible. And the fact that you could witness that large scale, basically earthquake of fans kind of experiencing the music together, singing in Korean, singing in English, screaming during the VCRs in between the songs, it really is a one of a kind experience.
Yeah, the light sticks, I had never seen anything like it.
Yeah,
It was incredible.
it's
And,
amazing.
and that whole mentality of just, like, bringing such an over the top performance to their fans, in so many different ways goes straight back to Dark and Wild. If you look at the packaging on Dark and Wild and how much care went into it and how incredible it is, you kinda get, like, the vision from the very beginning. Hitman, from the very beginning, envisioned BTS to be the biggest artist in the world, and then he did it. In 2019, BTS was the number 1 touring artist in the entire world. I was like,
Yep.
"God damn, he called that cold before the first
Hmm.
album dropped." Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's
And it's
impressive.
powerful. It's very impressive. But you do feel it in Dark and Wild. You feel their presence on tracks like Hip Hop File and Cypher Pt.3 Killer. And I love how you emphasize your role working with the rappers primarily too, because you could feel their passion even in those early tracks. That hasn't wavered.
Especially in those early tracks, man, it's not like they're not still hungry. Those guys are such hardworking, focused guys. But, back then it's like you really got shit to prove, as an artist, especially like doing American hip hop in Korea at the time was I mean,
Yeah.
that's not the door that Psy opened.
No, it is
I
not.
mean, there is no door to walk through in that. And they were like, let's go. I was like, okay,
Yep. They made it happen and you were ready for the ride.
man, what a journey.
What a journey indeed. And apart from mono, you've mixed several other stellar RM solo tracks, including Change, Closer, and my personal favorite, Yoon feat. Erykah Badu. So could you walk us through the creation of the 2 Indigo tracks particularly? Because they have very
Ugh,
distinct textures on those songs. They're just
God, I
beautiful.
love those songs. I had forgot about Change with Wale.
Yeah,
That
it's a
was a
good
while
one.
back. Yeah, that's
Throwback.
that's going way back. And Wale was big at the time. Indigo. Uh, which one did I mix first? I can't remember which one I mixed first, but both of them are just such a vibe. The one with Erykah Badu that's the first time I've touched her voice, and what an honor. For me, like I kind of have a sense of what RM wants at this point. That's probably why he hires me. And I just kind of try and tap into who he is. And I know he loves hip hop and soul, and there's a reason that he tapped Erykah Badu for that song, so it had to feel like vintage soul. So I think there was a lot of kind of going for that vibe on that record. And then Closer was, who are the 2 features on that?
Paul Blanco and Mahalia.
So good. Jeez.
Absolutely.
So good. And we did an alternate version of Closer for it was like, some cinematic movie
Yes, I know what you're
video
talking
for
about.
that. Yeah, we did a
Mhm.
brand new mix of that whole song from scratch just for that video, and it was, like, much darker and moodier and vibier. It's hands down the darkest BTS song I've ever mixed. Usually, they want it big and open and bright up on top. This was, like, roll off everything above 15K. But it sounded beautiful, so I was like, if that had been their new direction, I wouldn't be mad at it at all.
Absolutely. Yeah, Indigo has so many beautiful textures. It's just a brilliant record. And I feel like your deep hip hop background with them also shines on heavy hitters like Intro Persona and Outro Tier. Those are such good
Oh, I
songs.
love those songs.
Oh,
Intro Persona, I actually so I have a place down in Ecuador on the coast, and I have a studio at my place. And I go down there and make records and detox and chill and, enjoy life again. And I was down there and we didn't have a fire. There was a fire like 3 apartments directly below us. We had the top floor, we're the penthouse. And so the building was couldn't even get into the building for a week, and I get a call from BTS to mix that song, and I'm like, "Oh, fuck me." No, this is actually,
wow.
not Intro Persona, this is Shadow.
Oh,
Uh,
Shadow. It's okay. I still
yeah.
want to hear the story.
This is Interlude Shadow off of 7. So I had a couple of the guys from the complex help me carry everything from my studio 18 floors down by hand across 3 parking lots to a set of suites on the ocean. And I set up a little working just control room in the kitchen of this little like ocean beach suite and deadened the walls as much as I possibly could, worked mostly in headphones, but had 2 different pairs of speakers along with it, and it was just 3 days of wrangling that mix into what it was, because the mix is radically different than the rough mix, but it was just one of those, like, I felt like I knew where it was supposed to go, and I took it there, and then they fucking loved it, and we did one little change, and then it was done. But
That's
that was,
insane.
like, the craziest, you know I didn't even tell them that, I didn't tell them anything. I was just like "They need this song mixed." I had no idea that it was gonna be a single. It came out, like, a month later with the video, and it did, like, 100 million views in, like, 2 weeks. When I was working on it, I had no idea that it was gonna be a single or anything, but there's no parsing of, when they call me, they get 150% every single fucking time. So I went in on that, and boy, a month later when I was watching it, I was just like, "These streaming numbers are ridiculous."
Yeah, definitely insane. And I feel like the chaos of that music video and the insane, like, visuals that accompany it almost match the chaos that you endured making the mix,
That
actually.
now there's a drawing those parallels to that whole process, there's a lot to be said for that. Yeah, it really feels like those 2 went together.
They really did. Like,
Oh,
life
man.
imitating art and vice
But I
versa.
tell you that the funnest moments of that mix were when I was, like, nearing the finish line, and then I was, like, just giving my mix, like, the down the hall listen and the whatever, and I could give it the open the sliding glass door and walk out to the ocean terrace listen and just see what it sounded like, and your psyche changes when you're in a beautiful environment. It's just, it's more creative, it's not like I can't mix in a dungeon, but, I like working in nice places.
No, it's very understandable. It changed your atmosphere. I actually just spoke with A Chic, who is a songwriter on BTS's latest studio album, and she mentioned how RM actually wanted her to write with him in front of the ocean when they were making Swim. He needed that open air and perspective, so makes perfect sense.
Makes total sense. In fact, my studio that I'm sitting in right now is I built this about 3 years ago now, and the room is about. Do you guys do feet or meters there?
We
In
do feet.
Korea.
Oh,
Um,
I mean, I'm in New York, so I don't know what
okay,
they do in
so you know
Korea.
feet. So it's about 20 by 20 with about 10-foot ceilings, but I have a kind of a soft wraparound circle in front of me that's about a 40-foot wrap, and I have three projectors floor to ceiling projecting whatever I want. So
Wow,
like here, maybe
that's beautiful.
you can
Yeah, I'd love
probably
to see
see
if
it.
I could.
Yeah, I mean, it won't be exact, but
Let's see.
so there's so I'm putting myself in Ecuador right now. So there's my beach. I took this picture and it just wraps around the entire wall and and just outside of like my peripheral vision and ceiling to almost floor. And you know, if I want to put myself in a different environment, I just click a button and I'm, you know, at the Louvre or, you know, in Spain or, you know, I take a
I
lot of
love
my
it.
travels and like my panoramics wrap perfectly around this. So I
That's
take
gorgeous.
panoramics on a lot of my travels and then that's just like a good way to kind of clear your brain while you're trying to be creative and, you know, uh just get some nice creative stimulus like you're working outside. Um, and I feel like it really makes a difference just in your overall psyche, and especially if you got to work 7 days a week, you need to be inspired by the your surroundings.
Exactly, and inspired by the memories of the beautiful places you've been to also. Like, it's so important to keep that with you,
Yeah,
especially when you have to be locked in working 7 days.
it does. It helps lock those memories in,
It
and you
does.
know, because I have a fucking terrible memory.
Me too.
Everybody's like, "You should write a book," and I'm like, "I wouldn't remember most of my best stories." So, I'm not sure that I'm the guy to do that, but,
Yeah, that's okay. Maybe a documentary with some of the stuff you've captured through the years.
I mean, I've certainly told enough story on video over the years, so
Yeah,
there's
something to think about.
somebody may cobble enough of it together at some point.
Yeah, some point. But since we did talk about Map of the Soul 7, I gotta bring up Ugh, because that is an absolute powerhouse of a song. It's my favorite BTS song to date, and I'm really curious how you were able to kind of mix such high energy elements into a final track that sounded cohesive instead of chaotic. Like, it just is amazing.
One of the biggest challenges, I can't remember specifically for UGG, but I'm kinda scarred for life by the, Hey Mama mix,
Oh,
um, which I think was on Wings,
that was Wings.
and, uh and the reason I say I'm scarred for life, the Hey Mama mix was 179 tracks, and it was 5 distinct different sections. 179 tracks for K-pop is not astoundingly high. It's high, it's a lot, but it's like for people like us, it's kind of normal. But the challenge on that was there were 5 distinctly different sections with completely different music and vocals on each section. And there was no overlap of this vocal didn't go into that section. It was 5 different mini songs. And you had to make 5 different mini songs that wove in and out of each other, work as one song. So go back and listen to Hey Mama and with that in mind and understand like the chaos of nightmare that it is. But also like for me, I love a super challenge. And I think I've built a lot of my BTS career off of that. Where, you know, at some point as their notoriety grew, they would have me mix like a couple songs on each album, but then they would go to, you know, whoever the heavy hitter flavors of the month were, and they'd mix a bunch of the songs too. And then inevitably in like the last week of the album, I'd get a call like, "Hey, Ken, can you mix 2 or 3 more songs for us in the next few days?" And I'm like, "Send them over." And I would mix them and then we'd be done. And I'd get like 2 or 3 more on the album because I understand the sound and you know, that always helped a lot. Just being able to work very fast, understand, you know, what they're supposed to sound like and the ranges that covers and just be able to deliver very quickly and consistently and then revise quickly. And that's got me a lot of extra mixes.
It's amazing. And you also have a very unique perspective on J-Hope sound because you've worked on Hope World with songs like Hang Sang, which I love, and Jack in the Box with Arson. So, what did you notice in the sonic progression between those two eras, and how did your mixing style kind of adapt to this evolution within the 4-year window of those albums?
Oof. Man, it's so hard for me to compare because I don't really like encapsulate things like that. In retrospect, I probably should. I really should like lock in when I'm working on these things, lock in like the moments a little bit more, but it's crazy. It's always this industry is very feast and famine. And I've been in feast for most of my career. And it's just, if I turn down a gig, somebody else is going to get that gig, and that person might get the next 10 gigs that were tied to that gig. So, like, unless I absolutely have to, I never turn down anything. And once a project is done, I'm just like, all right, reset. What's the next thing?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think with J Hope, obviously all three of them, RM, J Hope, and Sugar, are all total hip hop heads.
Yeah.
I think RM leans more towards like hip hop soul, and J Hope and Sugar are like straight spitters. Like I know Suga wanted to work with like a bunch of the American heads, and I'm sure has, but they really are fans. Genuine, bona fide, deep hip hop fans. For them, it just I think is just a natural thing for them to tap into their creativity that way and bring it out. I'm just glad I'm a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's incredible. And even with like Suga and Agust D, I know that D-Day was the first rapper to get over 1 million copies of an album in a single day. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Insane.
what?
Yeah,
That that
unbelievable.
is, I mean, for like a BTS solo project, that was I don't even know how these things happen. I'm lucky that like I've been a part of some really big releases. Like Eminem was the first one to digitally sell 1 million copies of one of the albums I worked on with him, and you know, it's just like it's like that there's this Muso app that tracks your credits and your streams now. That's the only way that I knew I had 50 billion streams, and it
Wow.
only tracks streams from YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. So I have 50 billion streams from just those 3 sources, not Melon. Can you imagine my fucking Melon streams? Like, and this only goes back to a certain amount of time, so it's really, it's fascinating to me to kinda look back on all of the crazy shit that I've done and go like, "I've done a lot of shit. Wow."
You've
Like,
done a lot.
you know, it's nuts, but then the next day I gotta wake up and go back to work. It never seems to slow down. I would love it if I could figure out a way to slow down and still make as much money,
Yeah.
I would do it, but
Mm-hmm.
that magic formula doesn't seem to exist just yet.
No, no, it does not.
Oh,
But mentioning all the incredible work that you've done, you mix Born Singer and you also co-produce Born Sinner.
I did.
So stuff like that's insane. Can you share the story behind how that kind of happened?
Yeah, that was really nuts. And the way that J. Cole, so Born Sinner is a J. Cole album. I co produced on 9 songs on the Born Sinner album, including the single Born Sinner and Crooked Smile, and also the viral She Knows that is over 1 billion streamer. J. Cole brought me in because of Drake. The main things that I did on Born Sinner where I produced all of the live choirs and all of the live string sections. We had 16 strings and I think we had 30 choir. So all of the live strings and choirs on the record that you hear are me or my crew. J. Cole calls me up one night and he was like, "Is this Ken Lewis?" I'm like, "Yep. Who's this?" He's like, "It's J. Cole." "Hey, J. Cole, how are you?" Never talked to him in my life. It's like Saturday at 6.
Wow.
He's like, Drake told me I should reach out to you about choir stuff. Can I come over and play you my record tonight?" And I was like, "Yes." So fucking J. Cole comes over on like a Saturday night by himself, just him and his driver, and his driver waits at the street. And he sits and plays me like his entire album in progress, which he was about halfway into it. Most of the songs were like fleshed out skeletons. And he just was asking me, he was like, well, what do you think about this? And what would you do to this song? And he was just kind of probing me for like general, where did my sensibilities lie? And did they line up with him musically? And then I didn't hear anything for months. And then months later, I get a call and he's like, I want you to come and do choirs and strings on all of these. Da, 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 da. I was like, oh, let's fucking go.
Like, okay.
So we did that. And that was, the Born Sinner album, and that led to the guys calling me to mix Born Singer for the anthology.
Yes, for Proof.
Proof, yeah. What an honor. That's just dumb luck right there.
It's beautiful, dumb luck.
Yes, it is. I was lucky on Proof. I think I got 5 mixes on Proof. So that's the most I've had on a BTS album in a while. Usually it's like 2 or 3.
Very nice. It's really cool. And to kind of wrap up our BTS deep dive before I have a couple other questions for you unrelated to them, looking back at this massive discography you've touched of theirs, what is your ultimate favorite either BTS group song or BTS solo song that you've had the chance to work on? Do you have a favorite?
Probably Ocean.
Oh, the hidden track. Why?
Well, you've heard it.
I have. It's beautiful.
It is. I think it's super underrated. When people discover it, it's really a moment. It's also called C. You can find it on YouTube if you don't know what we're talking about. So if you go to YouTube and just put in BTS Ocean or BTS C, it will come up. And it's kind of like this really dark, somber, almost ballad, but it's just so emotionally powerful. Yeah, that's definitely one of my favorites.
It's a good choice. It's very deeply resonant. Anytime I stumble upon it again, it always just like stops me in my tracks. I just have to listen to it and quiet all the other thoughts in my head.
Yeah. I probably still listen to that once or twice a year.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And since BTS's designated color is purple, I feel like it's the perfect transition to talk about Lavender Haze by Taylor Swift. So, how did you end up engineering that incredible track? And for our audience, how does your role as a recording audio engineer differ from mixing?
So, engineer is my credit, not exactly my role. I was brought in to both the Lover album and the Midnights album by Jack Antonoff. So, like, there's a bunch of kind of heavy hitters like Jack or Mark Ronson who know that I am like, this all started because I was Kanye's Figure It Out guy for 15 years. So, from like 2002 to about 2017, when Kanye had a musical idea, and nobody in his inner circle knew how to deliver it, they called me, and I was the figure it out guy. So when you have figured out so many crazy musical ideas for Kanye on so many big records over the years, other people seek you out. So that's how all of that got started. I ended up knowing Jeff Basker, who kind of got a big launch in the Kanye camp, and then Jeff produced the whole album with We Are Young and Some Nights. That's the album. Jeff produced Some Nights, and Jack Antonoff was a guitar player for fun. First time I worked with Jack, we started working together on other stuff, and he just knows, like, I'm a fixer. There are things that they know can be done, but almost nobody knows how to do them. I'm that guy. So it's a really, really weird position to have, but I was that guy for 3 songs on the Taylor record for Jack, and a song on Lover as well. And it's always different roles. It's the figure it out shit. It's the, I need this. I either have no time to do this and I know you're good at it, or I need this and I don't know how to do it and I know you'll figure it out.
That's incredible.
So yeah, I've gotten a ton of work and built a very interesting reputation and credit list from kind of just being able to go like, oh, I don't know how to do this, but I will in a day.
Exactly. And that's all that matters. That's the skill set you need that a lot of people lack. So you're able to fix it when they need it quick. That's really cool. And I also saw how you actually didn't originally know these tracks were for Taylor Swift's Midnights because you were kind of sworn to secrecy. That's the case?
Yeah, I almost never sign NDAs, unless I absolutely have to. When Jack asks, it's a easy yes. So I just had to keep monitoring releases produced by Jack Antonoff. So at first I
Yeah.
thought like, okay, here comes Florence and the Machine. God, I would fucking love it if I was on Florence's record. Oh, I
Yeah.
can't wait. Nope, wasn't Florence. And then it was like Minions, and I was like, maybe Tame Impala. I would fucking kill for a Tame Impala credit. Nope. And then it was like, and then I wasn't even thinking about it. And Taylor dropped. And then I get a text at midnight from Laura Sisk, who is Jack's main engineer and who is actually the main engineer on the whole project.
Mm.
I'm like a small player. And Laura's like, it's out. You're on it.
Wow.
I was like, oh, fuck. And then it was like the top 13 songs on Billboard were Taylor songs. And that was the first time in my entire career that I had 3 songs in the top 10 at one
Incredible.
time. And they all happened to be Taylor. So I was like,
Nice.
thanks.
Yeah. And very fitting to learn about it at midnight, that you were on
Yeah,
Midnights.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's really
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, that was wild.
And I also saw in one of your interviews that you actually view Taylor as one of the best songwriters on planet Earth. So I'm kind of
Yeah,
curious, how have you came
easy.
to that conclusion? Because I agree, but I'd like to hear your point of view.
I think she understands how to connect with people. And that is the number one job of a songwriter. You can write the best song in the entire world, the cleverest, most whateverest, but if it doesn't connect with people, you have nothing. And she has, I mean, the Eras tour proves everything, where you see like 3 or 4 different eras of people, and Taylor's only in her 30s doing an Eras tour. Are you kidding me? Like, I started tracking her on her very first single, like, and so I remember hearing her back all the way to there. And there was a time I got to songwrite with the producer who produced like most of her first several albums, Nathan Chapman, and he's a great songwriter. And I could feel his musical presence guiding those records after having worked with him. And because I Speak Now is like my favorite Taylor album.
I
And
adore that album.
Nathan produced Speak Now. So even though I'd say Midnights is a close second for me, but if I'm just listening for fun, it would be Speak Now then Midnights.
Yeah, definitely. Good choices. And False God is a beautiful song on
Oh,
Lover too. So it's
God.
really cool that your backing vocals are on that track.
Yeah, and when she performed that song on Saturday Night Live, that was such a moment. I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever. Because, it's kind of like the BTS thing. I didn't know that a song that I was working on was going to be a feature song on that album, and it probably would have been a single had the pandemic not hit. So, such is life.
Yeah.
Win some, lose some. But
Exactly. But the SNL performance was amazing. And to close out this wonderful interview, I like to ask my guest what their current dream is, because you've worked on so many remarkable records for artists like the Beastie Boys, Bruno Mars, Ariana Grande, J. Cole, the list goes on. And this dream could be big or small. What is your current dream right now as a musician and in your life?
I mean, the most important project to me right now is Anushka Sen. She is an artist from India. She's 23. She's a very well known actress in India, and we're starting her musical journey. She and I are musical partners, and we put out 2 singles so far. Third single's ready to go, and I was just up in Canton, Ohio, north of me, on Monday producing the Canton Bluecoats. It's called Drum Corps, but it's basically a professional marching band, and they're one of the best
Wow,
in the world. And so we have the Canton Bluecoats on Anushka's 4th single, which is going to be mind-blowingly cool.
that sounds
Um,
amazing.
and I met her through producing a song for the United Nations, and she's just the most genuine soul and good human being. Like,
Yeah.
fame doesn't mean shit to me anymore. I don't know that it ever really did, other than, well, this will be a credit that propels my career. Great. But, like famous people come and go. I've met enough of them to know. But Anushka seems to be, have spent most of her life in it and still be able to separate herself from it. But her acting ability gives her the ability to emote and channel behind the microphone in ways that it's nearly impossible to teach great singers that if they can't do it. And that is just such a game changer for her. She's already got a great voice, but her great voice coupled with the ability to really understand what it means to connect the emotional component of a performance to the listener is everything. And she does it so well. And I'm super excited about her project, both short and long term. I don't know when the Blue Coats single is going to come out, probably in 2 or 3 months, but God, that is a banger.
Oh,
So I
wow.
feel like we're making really incredibly great music, and it's just a matter of time until she's as known a musical artist as she is as an actress.
It's incredible. That sounds really exciting. I look forward to hearing those songs. Also, so cool that you produced a piece for the United Nations, and that's kind of how you ended up crossing paths.
It's a crazy world and it's a crazy business. You just never know where your connects are going to come from. I did a bunch of mixing on this jazz album from Nicole Zaritis this year, and she's a two-time Jazz Grammy winner and four-time nominee, and this album will probably get nominated. And I just happened to meet her at an event, just got introduced, and it's, you just know when you click with these people. There's just certain people where the moment that you meet them, you're like, you're my person. And then we ended up,
I love that.
working together ever since. And,
Hmm.
you just never know where this crazy business is going to take you. But, if you pay enough attention and try and do good business and keep your reputation up, be a person that other people want to work with, that tends to go a long way.
Definitely.
The other thing about Anushka Sen for
Hmm.
the Korean listeners is she's fairly well known in Korea as an actress, and she's shooting a movie called Asia right now, which is going to be like a feature film all throughout Asia. And she's got a major role in that. She's already fairly well known in Korea. As soon as we break her in India, it's going to be on to Korea and then on to America. And so
Amazing. That's really exciting. And I love that you had that heart to heart connection with her where you could tell she's genuinely a pure soul, and that allows for the music to connect even better when you're working together.
that's the only reason we're making music.
Hmm.
Like, I don't wanna work with people I don't enjoy nowadays. So,
Yeah,
I may make a song or 2 just to test the waters, but I'm not making more than that unless we are the same. If we don't click, that ain't
it's not happening.
no. There's so many people to
Definitely.
collaborate with that you can, really click with that just doesn't make
Yeah.
sense to try and force it creatively.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Well, thank you so much, Ken, for pulling back the curtain on your incredible artistry and what you've worked on with BTS, with Taylor. I'm really excited for this music with Anushka. It sounds amazing, and I can't wait for when that actually unfolds. And thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thank you, Angel. It's been a good interview. I appreciate your time.
I appreciate you. And to everyone who's watching, I'm going to be linking all of Ken's socials in the description as well as his website so you could check out his incredible credits because we didn't even touch all of the music. It's insane.
There's
There's
a lot.
so much to go through.
You've
That's why we need the documentary.
you've heard a lot of my work for sure. I don't care
Hmm.
who you are tuning in, you've heard a lot of my work.
You definitely have. But thank you so much for watching, and you'll catch us next time. That's all for K all.
Thanks, Angel.